When it comes to the LNU, the SCU, and the CZU Lightning Complex wildfires, I've typically been giving my updates and forecasts in the evening, but there's some big things going on in the weather forecast today, so I really just wanted to get this information out as soon as possible. The big story we're going to be talking about is the possibility of some new thunderstorms moving through the area throughout the day today and tomorrow. Now this is bad for a couple of reasons. One, gusty winds are terrible for fire behavior, and two, there is the possibility of lightning creating some new fires. So that's what we're going to be talking about in this video, and I'll also give you the updated numbers on all the various wildfires going on. So the first fire I want to talk about is the LNU Lightning Complex wildfire. Now, one area of concern is the eastern edge of this west fire. As you can see, there are some hot spots moving closer to the area of Healdsburg. I do know CAL FIRE has been working hard to gain some containment and protection on this side though. One area of good news is on the southern edge of the main fire. You can remember from a few days ago we were talking about how the fire was actually creeping into the cities of Vacaville and Fairfield. And you can see, based on this map, it doesn't really look like there's any more hotspots on the southern edge of this fire. So that's good news there. Again, don't take my word for it. Check CAL FIRE's website for all the current evacuations. Now, backing up right here, let's check out the eastern edge of this fire because you can see that's a pretty hot area right there. I do know CAL FIRE has been taking advantage of some of the favorable nighttime conditions and really fighting fire with fire. They've been burning out some of the vegetation here so that by the time this hot spot area gets to farther east, there isn't going to be any vegetation to further fuel the fire. Some pretty interesting firefighting tactics there. So let's get into the cold hard facts. What happened in the last day? You can see the LNU Lightning Complex is now up to 340,000 acres. That is officially the second largest wildfire in the history of California, and unfortunately this number continues to grow every time they update this webpage. The good news is containment is up to 17%. That's the highest we've seen it, and hopefully that number just keeps going up and these thunderstorms don't fan this fire any further. So when it comes to the evacuations, as always, check the CAL FIRE website. There's too many for me to possibly count. And I always say this in my videos, but CAL FIRE really asks if your location is on that list, please leave because it helps them do their job. Now, there have been some big updates, and especially with the structures destroyed number. You can see it is up to 845 structures destroyed. There have been 4 injuries and 4 fatalities. There was 3 in Napa and 1 in Solano. So if you or any of your friends or family have been affected by this wildfire, my thoughts and prayers go out to you. You can see this number is up as well. So that's good news. We're now over 1,700 personnel on this fire, 15 crews, 11 helicopters, 233 engines, 37 dozers, and 37 water tenders. I've also heard that they've had some big aircraft on this fire. So when it comes to numbers of personnel and equipment, this is a good sign. More and more resources are being directed towards this fire. I will say though, I just mentioned that this is the second largest wildfire of all time. The top wildfire of all time was the Mendocino Complex. And on that fire, we had about 5,000 people. So that kind of puts this number into perspective. And really the reason for that is there are so many different fires going on around California. There are 24 major fires. There's 13,000 personnel just all over the state right now. So there really aren't the resources to just throw 5,000 firefighters at one fire. But I do know they're doing as much as they possibly can. So this is where the bad news starts coming in, at least for the day today and part of the day Monday. And it has to do with this red flag warning that you see and the chance of thunderstorms. So this is showing the forecast for Napa. And really what this red flag warning means, it's one of the worst things you can see when you currently have some wildfires. Basically what it means is it's going to be warm temperatures, gusty winds, and low humidities. And then on top of that, there's also the possibility of some new lightning strikes coming in with those thunderstorms later in the day today. So again, this is bad. Gusty winds make fire behavior really erratic, makes it hard to actively plan a strategy, and then can also just lead to a rapid rate of spread. And then again, the possibility of new lightning fires popping up is not what we want to see right now. There are already too many fires going on. So I'll remind you kind of the reason for these thunderstorms. There's Hurricane Genevieve off the coast of Mexico, and you can see it's actually moving farther north. And what this is doing is basically just funneling moisture and energy into the state of California. That's going to create thunderstorms, which then create some lightning strikes. Now, this is similar to how these wildfires started in the first place. I will say, though, I don't think this system looks as strong as that system last Sunday that started all these fires, but it's definitely something to worry about here. Now, when it comes to this map, don't worry about the word vorticity. We're not going to get into that right now. Just think of it as storm energy. So this is showing basically storm energy for 11 a.m. this morning, and you can see the area of concern. We're in the clear throughout the morning and into the early afternoon. Where we have to start worrying, though, is around 5 p.m. this evening, and maybe even a little bit earlier than that. As you can see, that's most likely going to be a big thunderstorm moving right over the CZU Lightning Complex wildfire. They're saying this could bring some 30 to 65 mile per hour wind gusts, as well as some lightning strikes. So that is not what we want to see. The most recent number I saw was there was about a 50% chance of this storm moving right over the CZU Lightning Complex wildfire. And then if we move into 11 p.m., you can see it basically just moves straight south to north, right over the LNU and then a little bit of the SCU fires as well. So that's not what we want to see. And this storm energy is really just going to hang out throughout the day Monday. So I'm going to continue making these forecast videos as this situation progresses. So looking at the forecast for Napa, there's a few things I want to point out. One is some good news. The temperatures are lower than they really were all last week. 90 degrees, 88 degrees. It's still warm, but it's certainly not the triple digits that we had at the start of these fires. Now, when it comes to the winds, I would take this graph with a grain of salt because the real factor is going to be this thunder we see down here. When that comes in, that's when we could get the 30 to 65 mile per hour wind gusts that are really bad for fire behavior. If you're looking at this rain right here, I wouldn't get too excited. There's not a lot of moisture associated with this storm, so I don't think we're going to get very much rain, if any at all. When it comes to humidity, that's some low numbers throughout the day today and tomorrow. So really, we got the thunder, we got decently warm temperatures, and we have low humidity. So I'm not going to lie, fire behavior is going to be pretty tricky over the next 2 days. So the next one I want to talk about is the SCU Lightning Complex wildfire. And you can see the two major areas in this fire have really just combined into one giant fire. Some good news on this though, you can see there aren't that many hotspots on the western edge of this fire, which is the closest area to a lot of these major cities. So that's some good news with this fire. Now when it comes to the numbers though, this did go up pretty significantly yesterday. We're now almost up to 340,000 acres, 10% containment. Again, evacuations, you can check the CAL FIRE website. This number has gone up. We're now over 1,200 personnel, 23 crews, 4 helicopters, 133 engines, 30 dozers, and 38 water tenders. Now, when it comes to this forecast, again, we have that red flag warning. That is the major area of concern here. So if we actually go into the graphs, you can see the good news. Once again, temperatures are not as high as they were throughout most of last week. We really are in the mid to high 80s, so nowhere even close to those triple digits that we saw when these fires started. So I guess that is the good news. If we do have some lightning strikes, it's at least not as hot as it was last Sunday when all these fires first got sparked. You can see the main area we have to worry about is about 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. tonight. That's when there's the greatest possibility of this thunder rolling through, hopefully not lightning strikes. And again, don't get too excited about that rain. If I had to give my opinion, I'd say we're going to get less than 0.01 inches. When it comes to humidity, I'd say this is decently good news. It's coming down to about 35%, which isn't the best, but it's definitely not in the teens or the 20s, which is good to see. So overall, again, I will just reiterate the main thing we're worried about with the SCU Lightning Complex wildfire is this 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. throughout the day today. Now, the next one we'll talk about is the CZU Lightning Complex wildfire. And I would say this one is looking pretty good right now. There are still some hot spots around Ben Lomond and Scotts Valley. That's certainly an area of concern. But I would say out of the three major fires, containment has been the best around this one, and the fire behavior has been the most friendly, I would say. Now, when it comes to the forecast for this area, there are some interesting things with it. You'll notice the humidity is down around 25%, and then in the overnight hours, it says it'll be going up into 77% range. So that's great news for the overnight hours tonight, as long as these thunderstorms aren't too active. You can see temperatures are going to be pretty low, even into the 50s in some places. Relative humidity is going to be decently high. So on that aspect, that's some good news for trying to gain some containment tonight. Where we have the most concern, though, is obviously one, thunder. It's going to create erratic winds, bad for fire behavior, possibly lightning strikes, sparking new fires. But there's also something interesting about the forecast for this area. In the higher elevations during the nighttime hours, we're not seeing this rise in relative humidity. It's actually pretty strange. In the higher elevations, like last night, relative humidity actually dropped down into the single digits in the higher elevations of Ben Lomond. That is not what you want to see. And unfortunately, a similar trend appears to be in the forecast for tonight. So if you're above 1,500 feet, be on high alert, as that relative humidity that's going to be helping the lower elevations will actually be against you. So there's some big things that are going on with these fires. Again, the major area of concern just has to do with this red flag warning. So be on high alert. I would say the real concern today is starting at about 4 p.m. until about 12 p.m. That's going to be the time when we're going to get these 30 to 65 mile per hour wind gusts, and then the possibility of some new fires starting. So I will end this just by saying CAL FIRE's advice to everybody: if you are anywhere in this area, just be ready to evacuate at all times. We really don't know where these lightning strikes might happen. And unfortunately, it's been extremely hot, extremely dry for the last week and a half. So any lightning strike that does happen has a pretty good possibility of turning into a fire. I will obviously keep you guys updated as this situation progresses. And again, my thoughts and prayers go out to everyone who has been affected by these wildfires across the state. Thanks for watching.